Welcome to the Especially for Athletes podcast, where we explore essential principles that empower athletes to learn life's most valuable lessons through sports.
Hey, what's up, Dustin? How are you, man?
Hey, Shad. Happy New Year.
You too. I'm so excited for our new approach to our podcast this year. We're going to go back to doing a weekly podcast, and each week is going to focus on one of our core principles. And so this week we're doing Win the Hour, and we're going to focus on something that we were taught by Brendan Schooler, doing great in the NFL, killing it in the NFL right now. We were having a conversation with him, and he taught us something in regard to the principle of Win the Hour that I wanted to listen to together, have our listeners listen to, and then just have a discussion about it real quick. So here's Brendan Schooler. Here's what he said to us.
You know, there's people who go out there and will beat their chest and beat on the drums and say, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. You know, it's not those people who typically rise to the top. It's the people who do their work in silence and who do it day in and day out. And they enjoy the grind. They love the process. They love going through the pain, the sweat, the tears, all of that. They love to compete. And I think having that instilled in me at a young age was just work. Just go to work. Just go to work. Just go to work. No matter what's going on in your life, make that a constant. Go to work. Go to work every day. You know, there's going to be days you wake up and you don't want to roll out of bed and you want to hit that snooze button and you want to go get that extra hour of sleep. But your goals and aspirations don't care how you feel at the end of the day.
Isn't that cool, man?
That's great. Yeah. And he's spot on.
Yeah, he is. And so we're listening to this podcast. It's airing, first week of the new year. And a lot of people have just made some goals. They have these aspirations. 2025 is going to be different. I would just be curious in regard to our principle of Win the Hour, your thoughts on what Brendan taught us there.
Well, I think I've heard something similar said before, but the way Brendan explained it and throughout that podcast, if you're looking for a good episode from, the Especially for Athletes podcast to listen to, you want to go back in the vault, go listen to the entire interview with Brendan, because this is just one of several things that we discussed. And he is a big time football player, an all-pro safety in the NFL right now, having a great season. But, your goals don't care. I love that because we all have this time. Usually it's this time in the year. Everybody does it, New Year's resolutions, and we set these goals, and it's great. It's a great time to reset, and for whatever reason, we change the year on the calendar, and it just feels like we're starting over, and it's just, for whatever reason, easier to set goals. But writing the goal down, putting it on the bathroom mirror, all the things we do to remind ourselves of it, like he said, the goals don't care and nobody really cares. It doesn't matter. It's what we write down and how bad we want it doesn't matter. What matters is, are we going to actually, go do it? Nick Saban I saw a video of Nick Saban talking not long ago, and he used the example of the two ways that we use time. And he said, we spend time and we invest time. And he went through a couple things on what are you doing? Are you spending or are you investing? When you're playing video games, what are you doing? You're investing time or are you spending time? And his point there was obviously you're spending time. When you sleep in past the time you'd set to wake up and you turn that alarm clock to snooze or something, are you investing there or are you spending? And, if we're spending more than we've invested, we're going to run out of time eventually and go broke. And I think that's Brendan's point there, is that, once you set a goal to be great at anything, well, now you've got to invest. You're investing the things you do, or my investing, so that when a time counts, I've got enough invested that I can now deposit. And in his case, on the football field, he's invested enough that when it's time to go play football, he's got the money, so to speak. The investment has grown to where he can now go spend it on a Sunday afternoon playing in an NFL football stadium, where so many of us want it. We like the idea of that, but we'd rather spend time watching TV or spend time sleeping or spend time playing video games, all the things that we as adults do in our world and young athletes do at a different level in their world. And until we break that habit and break that cycle of wanting it really bad, but not actually putting in the work or investing the time necessary. We talk about it all the time, Shad. It's a great measuring stick at the end of every day. Did my habits and actions today match my goals and dreams? And it's just a yes, no question. And if you're winning the hour, like we say, trying to go 16-0 with those waking hours and 8-0 with the sleeping hours, you slept 8. Very easy. Go through the day and how many of those hours did you really win and how many of those hours did you lose? And if it's the truth is, if you're not going undefeated, then you have something to work on the next day.
I love what you said there. You know, sometimes we talk to athletes about that. Did you win the hour? And another question we could ask to determine the answer to that question is, did you invest the hour or did you spend the hour?
Yeah.
And I know it's okay to spend some hours having fun and to do those things if you're intentional about it. Yeah. But I love what he said too. And I would love your thoughts on this. And I have some thoughts on it too. It seems that a lot of the great athletes that we've had on our podcast, that we've had side conversations with on golf courses and things like that, they always seem to emphasize that really greatness comes to those who do things when they don't feel like doing them. Did you notice how he talked about that? That when he's talking about winning the hour, he kind of just dropped that little line there that they don't care how you feel. And also that you could push snooze for an hour, or you could get up and invest an hour toward your goals.
Yeah.
And it just seems that those who become great at things learn to do things when they don't feel like doing them. And I know you've coached a lot, you've done a lot of things. I would just like to know your thoughts on that. Well, if we're going to win the hour, how important is it to do things when we don't feel like doing them?
Usually the lazy dog inside all of us doesn't want to wake up early and go work out or cold plunge or, you know, go for a run when it's cold outside. Like very few people actually have that dog inside of them that's just barking at them to go do that every single morning, no matter what, until they have fed that dog enough that it becomes who they are. It becomes the alpha dog inside of them. And until that's the case, we're constantly fighting that, and we'll give into it and we'll say, yeah, I want tomorrow, right? Tomorrow. And to his point that, you know, you cannot survive at becoming great if you only work out when you're comfortable, if you only do things when you're comfortable. You know, being comfortable is the worst addiction. When we're addicted to being comfortable, we find excuses to not do things. And then I think what happens later, Shad, is when we don't reach the goal that we wanted, because we really didn't want it. Right? We didn't want it bad enough to get up and go for the run or cold plunge or set my alarm go to bed early or whatever it was, right? Is that we blame other people. I think that's one of the cycle or the loop there is that our habits don't match our goals. We're not comfortable, so we give into it and we don't go work out. We don't reach the goal that we had set for ourselves. And so the next thing is, well, it can't be me. It's somebody else's fault. And we blame other people or society or whoever it was for why we didn't get it. Instead of looking in the mirror and saying, did you only work out when you were comfortable? Did you only study when you were comfortable? Did you only do these things when you were comfortable? That's the problem. It's a you thing. You fed the lazy dog so much that the aggressive dog that wanted to be great died inside of you because you didn't feed it.
Yeah.
Right? And I think we all fall into that. And that's why this time of the year is a chance to kind of reset and hopefully get the train back on the track. But we first have to get organized, write the goals down, be very specific, all the stuff that we learn in setting goals. But at the end of that, if we only decide to work on our goals when it's easy and when we're comfortable and when we really want to, we'll go a couple weeks and it'll be the traditional regular story you hear of people setting New Year's resolutions that a month or two into it, we're back into the old habit, because you have to do it, especially when you don't want to.
And that brings in the competition, like that's within athletes, even athletes like us that are old, washed up 50-year-olds.
Yeah.
We learn to compete. And a lot of times victory comes to those, even in the field of play, like during a game, that I'm not quitting. I'm going to keep working. I know we're both tired right now, but I'm not giving in to the tiredness. And what I sense in these people who have accomplished great things in sports, or we've had some businessmen on and businesswomen on that do the same thing, that accomplish great things, is they almost compete against that feeling. Like when that feeling arises in them, stay in bed, it's almost like that becomes their competitor. And they have to say, like, no, shut up, stop. I'm not staying in bed. You're not winning today. I'm getting out of bed. And I think that we've learned to compete. And athletes who are listening to this, you've learned to compete. You know how to do it. We just have to turn that competition sometimes inward to those inner voices, to that dog, as you said, within us, that's saying, no, stay in bed. You need the rest. You're tired, or whatever it might be. Just spend this hour playing video games. You've earned it. And we give in to that and we lose. Like we lose our best self, that self that we envisioned when we set our goals. We lose because we aren't competing against those inner voices, those inner temptations that want us to be comfortable and to remain where we are.
Yeah.
But greatness is on the other side of that. Like if we could break through that and not give in, our goals don't care how we feel. So we shouldn't care. Like if we really want something, if we really want it this year, compete against those things that are going to tempt you to give in. And that, like you said, it's going to be that third week of January, right? When it becomes kind of normal, that burst of excitement is gone. That's when consistency is going to matter. And when we have to start talking to ourselves and like, nope, I'm not giving in. I'm going to be different. And I just love that he brings that up. Any final thoughts on that?
Well, I can tell you from a coaching perspective, one of the things that coaches will do, and I remember asking this several times of my coaching staff, and I've done it to myself, is that I try to put myself in the position of the other coach and saying, okay, knowing what I know about my tendencies, my staff's tendencies, and my team, what would I do if I were them in this situation? Who would I attack? What part of our game is softer than the other, right? Where are the holes in our army? And we know what they are, just like every general knows which one of his soldiers, man, I don't know that I trust him as much as I do this guy. So what you do then as a coach is going into the next week, it's, okay, this is a weakness of we're soft here, we're soft here, we're soft here. Or this is a tendency that we have we do this a lot in these moments. We need to tighten this up. We need to strengthen this area. And then you try to address those during the week because you know your opponent is watching film on you and probably doing the same thing and writing down where are the holes in the armor. We got to attack there. So I think it'd be smart for us to do the same thing. We know, I think for the most part, or people maybe close to us can help us with this if we're humble enough to ask for it, right? I've known you, Shad, for almost 30 years now, right? Over 25 years. And you know me well enough that if I were to say, okay, I'm really serious about this, Shad, you know me. What do you think are the things that I'm going to stumble or trip on? Where am I going to get offline? Here's where I think I'm susceptible to giving in to the lazy dog. What other things are there that you think and I need to be heads up on? Right. And if we kind of write those things down, our weaknesses, where it is, we know that the lazy dog is going to might win, might get us, might attack that area. If that's waking up is really hard for some people, or it's going to bed at time is really hard, or drinking enough water, or whatever it is, right, that we give into a video game or TV or whatever, junk food or whatever that thing is. If we know what they are in advance and we're aware of those weaknesses, maybe that might help us when that starts to creep in. We can say, no, I was ready for you. I knew you were going to come. You're trying to make your move right now. I'm not going to let it happen. In fact, I'm going to show you that I'm done with you. You are no longer part of my life, that I'm going to do the opposite of you. Does that make sense? And until you've sort of spit that part out of who you are as a person, because what happens eventually to these elite level people, not just in sports in general, is that you and me and human people listening to this who have conquered and become good at anything, is that we start eliminating those things with positive habits and positive investment of time and investment of good energy. And that becomes who we are. We become elite. We become great. And you can't do that. I don't think we can fully do that until we recognize what our holes are, what our weaknesses are, what our temptations are, acknowledge those and say, okay, they are going to try to bite me at some point. I'm going to be ready for them. And when they do, I'm not going to let them win. Yeah. Right? Be proactive in understanding that, not just reactive for when they show their heads and then, oh, shoot, now let them win. We'll stumble too much if we do that.
Yeah. And maybe I'll close, with this thought. James Clear, who wrote Atomic Habits, he talked about the importance of when we're trying to create new habits, like instead of focusing on what we do, focus on who we are. And he said there's just a ton of research that supports this. For example, to say, no, I am an early riser. That's who I am. I am a healthy eater. I am a hard worker. Yeah. There's something about that you take your yearly goals and you attach to it. It's part of your identity. Yeah. I am someone who works out. And so I think it's important to make it kind of who we are and to say that to ourselves. Like, no, I'm an early riser. I'm getting up. I'm not giving into this feeling of wanting to stay in bed right now. And I just think it's really important. I love what Brendan taught us there. It's no surprise that he's killing it right now in the NFL, doing such great things, because of the fact that I just love that thought. Your goals don't care how you feel. Yeah. You can come up with a great excuse to talk to your goals. Like, hey guys, I would love to do that. I would love to lose weight this year. But gosh, our neighbors brought us caramels. I love caramel. Like your goals aren't going to look at you and go, okay, I won't allow those calories to have you gain weight because I understand your neighbors brought your goals don't care.
Yeah.
Figure out your goals, figure out the process, and then just be consistent. Focus on consistency. Your goals don't care how you feel. Yeah. And I just love that thought. Thought it would be a great thought to share with people as they try to win the hour this week and this month. And any closing thoughts on this, Dustin?
No, I think that's it. It's a good first episode. I think you were spot on to make Brendan's comment the focus of today's episode. And hopefully, even as I'm talking it through with you, I've been thinking of some of the goals I've set. And as we've talked it through, I'm like, I got to address that differently. I need to approach that more focused. And you're right. There are going to be times I don't want to do it, but my goals aren't going to wait. So all I'm doing is spending time when I give into the temptation. I'm not investing it.
Yeah. Oh, and I love that thought. To close with that thought, invest time this year. Don't just spend it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dustin. And thanks everyone for joining the Especially for Athletes podcast this week. Eyes up, do the work.
Thank you for joining the Especially for Athletes podcast. To learn more about Especially for Athletes organization, get a copy of our book, The Sportlight, or to bring our program to your team, school, business, or organization, visit us at especiallyforathletes.org.